Hello to you all my viewers. Welcome to Geonodes daily series where we do something cool in geometry nodes, and also welcome to this mini series where we recreate this cool SciFi reactor that you see in the demo. We almost near the end of this series. Today we will recreate that awesome drone that you see in the video, and that's going to be a lot of fun. And also you'll get to see how you can use splines to create objects like you see there. Also how to add a custom UV map, do a procedural animation, and a bunch of other stuff. So if you look at the screen, we get to play with this drone that you see here. You can see it has a very interesting material. I will make some videos about the materials, and if we press play, you can see these rings rotating in a very interesting way. And also you see the drone, it's moving and it's controlled basically by an empty, this empty that controls also the effect that you see in the demo. And that's really cool, I think. Also as a touch, and that will be addressed in the material. You get to change the color of the core elements of the drone, the lights, if the empty increases. That's also cool, but that's for the materials. For today, we will focus on the geometry, and we will recreate that drone. By the way, you can purchase this project file from Gumroad. You can play with it, learn a lot from it, and also support this channel. So thank you all of you that are doing that. Now back to our project. This is where we left it last time. We created these orbs that sit inside the cubes, and they have their own cool animation, as you can see here, and they will follow this empty that we can move anywhere we want in the scene. And by doing so, we change the location where the orbs are moving. But for what we want to do today, we are not going to need this, so let me mute these two, and we will do another setup here for the drone. So let me take this frame and call it drone, and we will start with our setup. So the first thing we want to create are the rings. So how can we make the rings? Well, let's start with a curve and do a circle. I'm gonna plug this one here so we can see something. And we have this circle. Let's do some resolution on this one. It's gonna be useful for the UV map later on. And let's leave it at the size of 1. And let's turn it into a real geometry. And for that, let's use a node called curve to mesh. So curve to mesh, plug it here into our frame, and now we need a profile. And for that profile, we will use a quadrilateral. So let me plug this one here, and immediately we get this result. So let's play with the values. Let's make it like something like this, and let's make it less thick. Something like this will be okay for now. As you can see, it's looking really mushy, so let's fix that. And the way to fix that is to resample this curve from here. So let's do curve, resample curve, and give it a resolution on 128 like this one. And as you can see, we already have a circle that is looking very nice. But in our demo video, as you saw, there was something else going on. But before doing that, let me do a material, set material, and give it like a red material for this one. Okay, we saw that we had 3 circles. So how can we do that? Well, we used that node before. We have an instance on points. So let me take these 2 nodes, join them into a frame, so it's easier to move it around. Okay, so we want to duplicate this. Let me do an instance on points. This way we can use these points, these instances here. So I'm gonna plug it here, and now we need to duplicate it. And for that, I'm gonna use a mesh line because it has this very nice control for the number of points. So if we plug it here, as you can see, we get 3 circles, but they are not set up the way I would like them to be set up. So what I'm gonna do is overlapping them by canceling this position. We still have 3 circles. If we go to wireframe, it's not visible, but if we look here, we have 3 instances. And now it's time to play with these instances. What I want to do is to make them of different sizes. And in order to do that, we can use this scale range from here. And the question is how we can control the scale. Well, that's the interesting part. Let's duplicate this node and let's take an input integer. Take this value of 3 and plug it here and also plug it here. And this way we can control this at the same time. And like I said, we want to control the scale. Okay. How can we do this? Because I want to have like not a random value for this, because it will be easy to plug a random value here and get something like this. Let's switch this one to float, and if we play with this, we get something like random value, but I don't want a random value. I want an even distribution. That's why I'm going to go to this method. Now we have another mesh line that is going, let's put it on the Z. From 0 to 1, we have 3 points going from 0 to 1 in location. So what I want to do is use an attribute, transfer attribute, take this value, switch this one to vector, switch this one to index. So we transfer based on the index, and the attribute that I want to transfer is the position. So I'm going to plug the position here. So now we can use in the position of these points with another geometry, and the other geometry is going to be our rings. And from this position, I'm only interested in the Z position. So let's do a separate X, Y, Z. And I want the Z because we move this on the Z position. And now we have access to this value. If we plug it here, we get this. One is getting to 0, one is getting to 0.5, and one is getting to this value of 1. But this is not what I want. I want to control this, so I'm going to plug a map range here. So we have a 0 to 1 position, and now we can decide how small is the smallest circle. So let's do like 0.6, and the maximum, let's leave it at 1. And if we look here, we get this result. As you can see, we still have only 2 circles. So let me go on and check what's going on here. If we look at this, we see, let's use a control shift click, and that's gonna plug this viewer node here. So if we look at the output, we see we have the position coming from this one being 0.6, 1, and 1. So we see we have an overlapping value. If we unclamp this, we see what's going on. Now we have the right position. So that will be a way. But because I want to control this to make sure that the last one is 1, I'm going to go back to this mesh line and change this from offset, that is going to give us distance of 1 and whatever. I'm going to change it to endpoints. So that way we make sure that the last point of this line is at 0, the first is at 0 and the last at 1. So now we can basically now control the distribution of this very nicely. Excellent. Control H on this one. We don't need the other outputs. So now we have this controlled. So what's the next thing to do? I want to add a custom UV map so we can do something cool in the material with this. And the way to do this, 1 second, I want to give this a color so I know it's a controller. And the way to do this, it's actually very, very easy. So let's do this custom UV map. We have this profile circle that is giving us the length, and we have this profile circle that is giving us the width here. So having these two things, we can do a capture attribute and plug it here. And the attribute that we want to capture, it's gonna be curve. Let's go to spline parameter. And we want to capture the factor, meaning on the length of the curve, we will get a 0 to 1 factor. And that's basically what we need to create a UV map. So let's take a combine XYZ, because for now we don't have a 2D vector, and plug it here for the X and Y. And this value, we want to plug it to this output here. So we take this one and plug it to our geometry output, press N, we go to the group, and on the output, let's do drone UV. So we know what that's it. And it's also important to fill in this field here, because this is what the material will actually use. So this is how you can create the UV map. The next point that I want to tackle is doing procedural animation on these rings. So how can we do that? Well, if we look at our very nice setup here, we have a rotation that controls the rings. So let's use this for our advantage, to our advantage. Let's do a random value, switch this one to vector, and plug it into the rotation. Immediately we see the rings having a rotation of sorts. And let's say we want to rotate 360 degrees. That will be 6.2 in radians. So let's do like tau. That's going to give us this value. And let's do from minus 360 degrees to plus 360 degrees. And we get this random rotation that we can control from here and have them already randomly displaced. It's very easy for us now to actually do a procedural animation, because we have these instances. Let me delete this node, we don't want it for now, and go into instance, rotate instances, plug this node here, and now we have a nice controller for our rotation. And now that we have this, let's introduce this scene time node that is going to give us access to the frame, and let's decide where we want to do our rotation. Let me plug it into the rotation and see. We want to rotate on this axis? No, but we want to rotate on the X and Y, but not the Z. We don't want to get some gimbal locks and stuff like that. So if we plug this value here into the X, we get this craziness happening. So let's reduce the speed. You can use divide or multiply. Usually I use divide, but multiply, it's also nice. So now we can control this, something like that. And if we plug it onto the Y also, we get this random rotation that you see here. Awesome, awesome. One more thing that I want to add to this, and that's the core of this drone, because so far we don't get that going on for us. So we will add the core. But one more thing, right now this UV map that we created, this one from here, it's kind of useless because it's not going to work on instances. So in order to make it work, we have to realize the instances, and that's going to be activate UV map, something like that. And I also want to give it a color to know what is going on here. Something like this looks nice. Excellent. And also, because we want to add the core, we will do a join geometry, plug it here, Alt P, because I don't want that into that frame, just this one. And now for the core, let's do an icosphere, plug it here, and do like 4 subdivision and reduce the size. Let's say 0.5. It's looking good. Let's say 0.4. Of course, you can expose all of these values like I showed you in the other videos. For now, I'm just not going to do this. Just do a set shade smooth for this one, and also a material, set material, and you can put whatever material you have prepared in there. So this is going to give us the core. Excellent. Let's do a color on this one to be easy to differentiate. And once we did this, we have our fully functional drone. Only one thing that I want to do, I want to link this to our animation, because right now this drone is sitting here, but I want to link it to this controller that it's breaking our stuff. So let's drag this brake controller here and do control. Okay, so now we have this brake control. Switch to relative to get its actual position in the world, not the origin. And how can we use this? Well, we have all the geometry here. Let's do a transform on it and plug the location here. And as soon as we do this, we can use this brake controller to move our drone. That will be how to link the drone to the controller. And of course, if we play the animation, the rings are still spinning like we made them spin, even if we move this around. Cool, huh? Yeah, I think it's really, really cool. So that's gonna be all for this one. One more video I'm gonna show you in the last video how I created the Reactor core. It's very interesting because I made kind of like a fake volumetric material, and I made it look interesting by duplicating the core. But that's something that you will see in the next video. So thank you very much for watching. Thank you for purchasing this project file that's helping me. a lot. And also thank you for all of you that are subscribing, liking the video, and commenting on them. That's also really, really helpful. And until the next video, have a nice day and happy blending.